The Vrox ships materialized in perfect formation above New Terra. 17 crystalline vessels that caught the light of the binary stars and fractured it into prismatic patterns across the colony's skyline. Captain Maya Chen watched from the grimy viewport of the Rusty Nail, a dockworker's bar perched on the edge of Landfall Spaceport. "Another," she said, sliding her empty glass across the scratched counter. The bartender, a Centaurian with 4 wary eyes, hesitated. "That's your 4th, Captain, and those aren't water purifiers up there." Maya stared at the alien ships. Unlike human vessels, utilitarian, asymmetrical things built for function, Vrox ships possessed an unsettling beauty. No visible thrusters, no obvious weapons ports, just perfect geometric forms that somehow conveyed absolute power in their mathematical precision. "All the more reason," she replied. The colony's emergency sirens began to wail. On the bar's glitching holoscreen, the planetary defense grid activated. Pitiful ground-to-space batteries swiveling to target vessels they could never hope to damage. Maya almost laughed. She'd seen what Vrox weaponry did to the Proxima colonies. Her military-grade wristcom, one of the few possessions she'd kept after her court-martial, vibrated with an emergency broadcast. Governor Ellis's voice, usually pompous and controlled, now trembled. "Citizens of New Terra, remain calm. Negotiations with the Vrox delegation are underway. All non-essential personnel are to remain in their homes until—" The transmission cut off abruptly. Through the viewport, Maya watched as pinpricks of light, transport ships attempting to flee, rose from the surface only to freeze mid-flight, caught in invisible tractor fields. "Idiots," she muttered. "They're just making it easier for the Vrox to round everyone up." The bar emptied quickly, leaving only Maya and a hooded figure who had been watching her from the corner. When he approached, she tensed, hand moving to the illegal pulse pistol concealed beneath her jacket. "At ease, Captain Chen," said Governor Ellis, pulling back his hood just enough for her to recognize him. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. "Governor, shouldn't you be surrendering the colony right about now?" Ellis slid into the seat beside her, glancing nervously at the bartender who had retreated to the back room. "The Vrox have given us 48 hours to submit to integration. After that, they start orbital bombardment of population centers." Maya shrugged. "Not my problem anymore. The Alliance stripped me of my commission, remember? You testified at my court-martial. Because you disobeyed direct orders. To abandon civilians to pirates." Maya's knuckles whitened around her glass. "I saved those people, and I need you to save more." Ellis placed a data chip on the counter between them. "The Vrox have blocked all long-range communications. We need to get word to Alliance headquarters." Maya laughed bitterly. "And how exactly am I supposed to do that? No ship can outrun Vrox. Interceptors. Their crystalline drives are the pinnacle of faster-than-light technology." "Yes, I've read the briefings." Ellis leaned closer. "But you have something they don't account for." "And what's that?" "The refugee ship Artemis is being held in orbit. Passenger manifest lists a Talia Chen. Your sister." Maya's blood went cold. She hadn't seen Talia in years, not since she'd sent her away to study on Europa. The thought of her gentle, brilliant sister in Vrox's hands. "What do you want?" "The Stardust Runner. Your ship. The one with the modifications that got you blacklisted from legitimate shipping contracts." Maya's eyes narrowed. "You know about that?" Ellis smiled thinly. "I make it my business to know the resources in my colony, even the illegal ones." Maya stared out at the perfect, terrible formation of Vrox ships. No one had ever outrun them. It was suicide. "When do we leave?" she asked. The abandoned mining tunnels beneath New Terra's southern hemisphere had become a labyrinth of contraband and secrets. Maya led Governor Ellis through passages that narrowed and widened unpredictably, the only light coming from aging luminescent strips that flickered like dying stars. "How much farther?" Ellis whispered, his polished boots slipping on the damp rock. "Getting cold feet, Governor?" Maya pulled aside a concealed panel, revealing a palm scanner. "Not exactly the clean government facilities you're used to." The scanner recognized her biometrics and a massive hidden door groaned open, releasing the smell of machine oil and ozone. Maya flicked a series of switches, and industrial lights sputtered to life, revealing her ship. The Stardust runner didn't look impressive. Its hull was a patchwork of mismatched plates, some clearly salvaged from decommissioned military craft. Unlike the sleek Alliance vessels or the crystalline perfection of Vrock's ships, the runner appeared cobbled together by a madman, which wasn't far from the truth. "That's your secret weapon?" Ellis couldn't hide his disappointment. "It looks like it would fall apart at standard thrust, let alone outrun Vrock's interceptors." A gruff voice echoed from beneath the ship. "She's not pretty, but she's got teeth." Cobb emerged, wiping greasy hands on a rag. The old engineer's right eye had been replaced with a cybernetic implant that constantly adjusted and refocused, analyzing structural weaknesses with machine precision. A reminder of the war with the Sovan Collective, before the Vrocks became the galaxy's dominant threat. "Governor," Cobb nodded curtly before turning to Maya. "Tell me you're not considering what I think you're considering." Maya moved past him, placing her hand on the ship's hull. "We need to break the Vrocks blockade. Get to Alliance headquarters." Cobb's cybernetic eye whirred as it narrowed. "With the experimental core? It's not stable, Maya. Never was. That's why the military abandoned the project." Ellis looked between them. "What core?" Maya pressed a panel, and a section of hull retracted, revealing the engine room. Unlike the chaotic exterior, the heart of the ship housed a technological marvel. A spherical chamber pulsed with blue-white energy, the light bleeding through a network of conduits that resembled a human nervous system more than conventional engineering. "Project Stardust," Maya said quietly. "The military's attempt to create an FTL drive that could match Vrock's technology." Ellis stepped closer, mesmerized by the light. "I thought that project was scrapped years ago. The test pilots died. Neural feedback overload." Cobb tapped his temple. "Human nervous system couldn't handle the interface. Captain Chen here liberated the prototype during her last mission." Maya's jaw tightened. "They were going to destroy it. All that research, all those sacrifices, wasted because some admirals got cold feet." A sudden alarm blared from Cobb's wrist device. He pulled up a holographic display showing a Vrock's scout drone scanning the mining tunnels above. "We've got company," he growled, reaching for a pulse rifle mounted on the wall. "They must have tracked your biosignature, Governor. Vrocks are thorough like that." Maya vaulted into the ship. "How long until the runner can launch?" "She's not ready," Cobb shouted. "The core isn't stable. The neural interface has never been properly calibrated for your specific—" The tunnels shook as an explosion echoed from the entrance. Dust and small rocks rained from the ceiling. "We don't have time," Maya called from the cockpit, initiating the startup sequence. "Governor, get on board." "Cobb." "I'll hold them off," the old engineer said, positioning himself at the tunnel entrance, rifle raised. "Buy you time to finish the pre-launch sequence." Maya paused, meeting his gaze. "That's suicide, Cobb." The old man's human eye crinkled in a half-smile. "The core doesn't need a computer to regulate it, Maya. It needs someone who can feel the ship like their own body." He tapped his chest. "You always flew like the ship was part of you. Maybe that's enough." Before Maya could respond, the tunnel erupted with plasma fire. The Stardust runner needed a crew, and Maya knew exactly where to find them, just not how to convince them to join what amounted to a suicide mission. New Terra's undercity thrummed with desperate energy as news of the Vrock's ultimatum spread. The narrow streets filled with people scrambling for black market shuttle tickets or seeking liquid courage in the numerous dive bars. Maya moved purposefully through the chaos, Governor Ellis struggling to keep pace behind her. "We're looking for a navigator," she explained, scanning the crowd. "Not just any navigator, a specific one." "What makes them special?" Ellis asked. "He can see gravity." The Golden Eclipse was the kind of establishment that catered to those who preferred anonymity over comfort. Smoke from illegal substances created a perpetual haze, and the clientele kept their faces hidden beneath hoods or behind masks. Maya spotted him immediately, a lanky figure hunched over a holographic star chart in the farthest booth. "Dax," she said, sliding onto the bench opposite him. Still mapping escape routes that don't exist? Dax looked up, his pupils dilating with recognition and fear. Unlike normal human eyes, his irises shimmered with an opalescent quality, constantly shifting colors as they processed gravitational data invisible to others. Captain Chen. His voice was barely a whisper. You found me. Wasn't hard. You still frequent the same garbage establishments. Dax's gaze flicked to Ellis, then back to Maya. Whatever you want, the answer is no. Maya leaned forward. You testified against me at the court-martial, Dax. Said I endangered the crew by disobeying orders. You did. His modified eyes pulsed with agitation. And now you're here with the colony governor while Vrock's ships orbit overhead. I'm guessing whatever you're planning is even more insane than last time. Maya placed a data chip on the table. Your medical records. The military modifications to your visual cortex are degrading faster than expected. You've got, 6 months before total neural collapse? Dax's hand trembled slightly as he reached for his drink. How did you? The Alliance has experimental treatments. You help me get through the Vrock's blockade and I make sure you receive them. Dax laughed bitterly. Blackmail. Always the honorable one, Captain. I need the best. That's you. Maya softened. Her tone. Your condition is a side effect of pushing your abilities too far. If anyone can plot a course through impossible space, it's someone who can literally see the gravitational landscape. Before Dax could respond, the bar's entrance exploded inward. Patrons scattered as a woman burst through the smoke, firing a pulse weapon behind her. She vaulted over the bar, taking cover as 2 figures in mercenary gear pursued her. Bounty hunters, Ellis hissed, ducking down. Maya recognized the woman, Ilara Voss, former lead engineer for Quantum Dynamics, the corporation that had originally developed the theoretical framework for the Stardust core. She was supposed to be dead. Change of plans, Maya muttered, drawing her pistol. She fired 3 precise shots, dropping both bounty hunters before they could react. The bar emptied instantly, leaving only their small group and the woman who now aimed her weapon directly at Maya. Captain Chen, Ilara said, her accent precisely clipped. I thought the Alliance had locked you away for good. Rumors of my incarceration were exaggerated. Maya holstered her weapon. Though I hear the same about your death. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Corporations don't like employees who discover they're selling technology to the Vrocks. We need an engineer, Maya stated bluntly. Someone who understands experimental drive systems. Specifically, someone who designed them. Ilara replied, lowering her weapon slightly. What are you flying? Project Stardust. Ilara's composure broke for an instant. Impossible. That technology was decommissioned after the neural feedback killed the test pilots. And yet, Maya said, I have it. The ceiling lights flickered as distant explosions shook the Undercity. Time was running out. I need one more, Maya said, standing. Dr. Grayson Webb. Dax looked up sharply. The xenobiologist? He's under house arrest at the medical center for unauthorized research. What kind of research? Ellis asked. The kind, Maya replied, that proves the Vrocks aren't just conquering worlds. They're harvesting them. The new Terra medical center's security systems had been designed to keep patients in, not intruders out. Maya led her growing crew through a maintenance shaft, guided by Dax's knowledge of the facility's structural weaknesses. Third door on the left, he whispered, eyes pulsing with opalescent light as he sensed the building's architecture. Webs, under guard, 2 security drones programmed for non-lethal intervention. Maya nodded to Ilara, who produced a small device from her pocket. Military-grade EMP, short range, but it'll fry their circuits. Governor Ellis wiped sweat from his brow. This is treason, you realize. Breaking out a prisoner. Fascinating. Time to develop a conscience, Governor, Maya replied. After blackmailing me into this mission, they reached the door, a reinforced composite with a biometric lock. Ilara attached her device and stepped back. A soft pulse, barely perceptible, emanated outward. The lock panel went dark. 30 seconds before emergency power reroutes, Alara warned. Maya kicked the door open. Inside, 2 security drones lay motionless on the floor. Dr. Grayson Webb stood by the window, a tall, thin man with prematurely gray hair and eyes that reflected a haunted intelligence. "Captain Chen," he said, showing no surprise. "I calculated a 62% probability you'd come for me if the Vrox arrived." "Grab whatever research you need," Maya instructed. "We're leaving." Webb collected a small case containing data. "Crystals. My research on Vrox physiological structures. They're psychic parasites, Captain. Their technological advancement comes at a cost, consumption of other species' neural energy." "Save the xenobiology lesson for the ship," Maya said, checking the corridor. "We need to move." The facility's alarms suddenly blared to life, but it wasn't their intrusion that triggered them. Through the window, they saw Vrox ships descending. Over the colony center, their crystalline hulls catching the fading sunlight. "They're moving ahead of schedule," Ellis gasped. The ultimatum had 26 hours remaining. Maya's wristcom vibrated with an incoming transmission. She activated. "It cautiously, Captain Chen." The voice was mellifluous, almost musical, yet utterly cold. "I am Commander Azarath of the Vrox Imperium. Your governor has been most uncooperative, attempting to send communications despite our blockade." Ellis paled. "How did they know?" "Your colony's defense grid has been compromised," Azarath continued. "A high-level access code was used. Someone close to you, Governor." Maya glanced at Ellis, whose face showed genuine shock. "You have something that interests me, Captain Chen," Azarath said. "Technology that shouldn't exist outside Vrock's understanding. We will have it, and you." The transmission cut off as a tremor shook the building. Through the window, they watched as precision strikes hit key infrastructure, not to destroy the colony, but to isolate specific sections. "They're targeting transport routes," Dax observed, "cutting off access to the spaceport. And the mining tunnels," Maya realized. "They know where the runner is." They rushed through emergency stairwells and maintenance corridors, encountering panicked medical staff and patients. Outside, chaos reigned as colonists fled the precise Vrox bombardment. A military transport lay abandoned near the facilities. Loading dock, its engine still running. Maya commandeered it without hesitation. "The hangar's compromised," she told the others as they clambered aboard. "We need another way to the ship." "The old fuel processing tunnels," Ellis suggested. "They run parallel to the mining network." As Maya navigated the crowded streets, swerving to avoid fleeing civilians, her wristcom activated again, this time showing Cobb's bloodied face. "They found us, Captain," he rasped. "Vrox troops in the hangar. I've locked down the ship, but they're bringing in cutting equipment. Hold them off, Cobb, we're coming." The old engineer's human eye reflected grim determination. "One more thing you should know. The governor..." A deafening explosion cut off the transmission as their transport rounded a corner, bringing them face to face with a Vrox ground patrol. The crystalline armored soldiers raised weapons that hummed with energy. Behind them stood Governor Ellis, his expression cold and calculating. "I'm sorry, Captain," he said. "They promised to spare the colony. Fuel reserves at 38%. Hull integrity compromised on decks 3 and 7. The Stardust runner's synthesized voice echoed through the cockpit as Maya pushed the ship into a spiraling trajectory through the dense asteroid field, bordering the new Terra system. "Can we seal the breaches?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the navigational display where 5 Vrox pursuit vessels, their crystalline hulls glinting like predatory eyes, maintained formation behind them. Ilara's fingers danced across the engineering console. "Automated systems are responding, but we're pushing the structural integrity beyond safe parameters." They had escaped New Terra by the narrowest of margins. The governor's betrayal had nearly been their undoing, saved only by Cobb's final act of sabotage, overloading the hangar's fuel cells to create a diversion. The explosion had bought them just enough time to reach the ship and launch, but Cobb hadn't made it out. "Incoming transmission," Dax announced, his modified eyes pulsing, with strain as he calculated gravitational eddies through the asteroid field. "It's Azarath." Maya hesitated, then nodded. "Put him through." The view screen flickered, revealing Commander Azarath for the first time. Unlike the hulking Vrock's ground troops, Azarath was almost elegant, tall and slender with crystalline growths that seemed to emerge organically from bluish skin. His eyes, multifaceted like diamonds, reflected the light unnaturally. "Impressive maneuvering, Captain Chen," he said, his voice carrying that same musical quality that somehow conveyed absolute cold. "Most would have surrendered by now." "I'm not most people," Maya replied, executing a tight turn around a massive asteroid that forced one of the pursuit vessels to temporarily break formation. "Indeed, your psychological profile suggests a fascinating combination of recklessness and calculation." Azarath tilted his head. The Alliance military was foolish to discard such a valuable asset. Maya felt a chill. "You've been studying me for some time. Your incident at Proxima Station, disobeying orders to save civilians when your superiors had calculated their loss acceptable. It demonstrated a peculiarly human quality. Inefficient, yet occasionally effective." On her console, Maya noticed Alara silently indicating that the runner's conventional drive was showing signs of imminent failure. They needed time. "You seem to know a lot about me," Maya said. "Seems only fair I know something about you." Azarath's crystalline features arranged themselves into what might have been amusement. "A diversionary tactic, but I'll indulge it. What would you like to know?" "Why me? Why the ship?" "Your experimental core. It's based on principles that should be beyond human understanding." His multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Someone in your species has been evolving faster than anticipated." Dr. Webb, monitoring. Life Support Systems looked up sharply. "You mean someone stole your technology?" "No," Azarath replied. "Someone independently discovered principles we believed unique to Vrock's cognition. That concerns us." As they spoke, Maya was guiding the ship deeper into the asteroid field, forcing the Vrock's vessels to adjust with increasing frequency. She noticed something peculiar. Whenever she made an intuitive last-second adjustment rather than following optimal flight patterns, the Vrock ships responded fractionally slower. "You're hurting us," Maya suddenly realized, studying the tactical display. "Away from Alliance space. Perceptive." Azarath's voice carried a note of genuine approval. "Your mission was always futile, Captain. Even if you somehow evaded us, the Alliance has already been infiltrated. Our agents have compromised strategic positions throughout human space." He magnified an image on his end of the transmission. Maya's breath caught. It showed the refugee ship carrying her sister, now docked with a Vrock's cruiser. "Surrender your vessel, Captain Chen, and I guarantee your sister's safety. Continue this chase and she will be the first test subject in our study of human neural energy extraction." Maya's hands tightened on the controls as alarms blared across the ship. The conventional drive had just failed completely, and they were being pulled inexorably toward a massive gravity well. Conventional drive failure, gravitational pull increasing, collision with neutron star estimated in 43 minutes. The ship's computer announced with incongruous calm. Maya silenced the alarms, her mind racing. "Options?" "There aren't any," Dak said, his modified eyes fluctuating wildly as he processed the gravitational data. "The neutron star's pull is too strong. Without main engines, we can't break free." Through the view screen, they watched as the Vrock ships maintained a perfect formation at the edge of the gravity well, waiting. Azarath's voice came through once more. "A regrettable predicament, Captain Chen. My offer stands. Surrender. And your crew, including your sister, will be treated as valuable research subjects rather than enemies of the Imperium." Maya cut the transmission. "Alara, tell me the experimental core can get us out of this." The engineer hesitated, her gaze shifting to Dr. Webb, who had been uncharacteristically quiet. "It's possible, but what?" The core was never designed to be regulated by conventional interfaces, Alara finally said. That's why the test pilots died. Computer systems can't adapt quickly enough to the energy fluctuations. Webb stepped forward. Captain, when I said the Vrox consume neural energy, I meant it literally. Their technology, those crystalline structures, they're conduits for psychic energy. Their ships aren't just vessels, they're extensions of their consciousness. Maya turned to him sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying, Webb continued, that your core was humanity's attempt to replicate their technology without understanding the fundamental principle behind it. The Vrox don't pilot their ships, they merge with them. Alara nodded slowly. That's why Project Stardust failed. We created the hardware but couldn't develop an interface compatible with human neurology. The energy feedback was too intense. But Cobb said something before he died, Maya recalled. The core doesn't need a computer to regulate it. It needs someone who can feel the ship like their own body. The ship shuddered as another system failed. Outside, the neutron star's lethal radiation began to affect their sensors. I've been analyzing your neural patterns since we left New Terra, Webb said, moving to a console. Your reflexes are faster than human baseline, significantly faster. And they're accelerating. What does that mean? It means, Alara interjected, that you might be able to do what the test pilots couldn't, fully integrate with the core. 38 minutes to collision, the computer updated dispassionately. Alara was already moving toward the engine room. I can modify the medical equipment to create a neural interface. It won't be elegant, but it might work. What happens if it doesn't? Dax asked. Webb's expression was grim. Best case? Immediate death? Worst case? Psychic fragmentation, consciousness scattered across the ship's systems while the body remains technically alive. Maya followed Alara to the engine room where the Stardust core pulsed with increasingly erratic energy. The engineer worked feverishly, cannibalizing medical equipment and life support components to construct a makeshift interface pod. The Vrox physiology is crystalline-based, Alara explained as she worked. Their neural pathways naturally interface with their technology. Humans aren't designed that way, but your nervous system seems to have unusual properties. Meaning what? Meaning you might be able to survive the initial shock long enough to establish a stable connection. She hesitated. Maya, this will hurt more than anything you've ever experienced. The ship lurched violently as secondary systems began to fail under the gravitational stress. 29 minutes to collision, the computer announced. Through the viewport, Maya watched as Vrox boarding shuttles detached from the pursuit vessels moving toward the stricken runner. They knew time was on their side. Do it, Maya said, removing her jacket. Whatever it takes. Alara pointed to the hastily constructed pod, little more than a reconfigured medical scanner surrounded by a web of interface cables leading directly to the core. Once you're connected, you'll need to find a way to feel the ship. Not control it, but become it. The neural interface cables snaked around Maya's body like metallic vines, cold against her skin as Alara made final adjustments. Through the viewport, she could see the first Vrox boarding shuttle maneuvering toward their airlock. 15 minutes. To collision, the computer announced. Dax, can you keep them out? Maya asked, her voice steady despite the fear churning inside her. The navigator nodded, his modified eyes pulsing rapidly. I've locked down all entry points, but they'll cut through eventually. Dr. Webb, explain exactly what I need to do once I'm connected. The scientist looked uncertain. There's no protocol for this, Captain. Based on my research into Vrox neurology, their connection with technology is instinctive, evolved over thousands of generations. For a human to attempt something similar, he shook his head. You'll need to find your own path. Alara finished the final connections to the hastily constructed pod. The interface will attempt to map your neural pathways onto the ship's systems. The pain will be substantial. I've got a sister to save, Maya replied, settling into the pod. Do it. As Alara initiated the sequence, a violent explosion rocked the ship. Through internal monitors, they saw Vrox troops breaching the secondary airlock. They're in, Dax warned. Captain Chen. Commander Azarath's voice came through the ship's comm system. Your resistance is admirable but futile. My boarding teams will secure your vessel before it reaches critical proximity to the neutron star. There's no need for unnecessary casualties. Maya closed her eyes as the interface activated. The initial surge felt like liquid fire flooding. Her nervous system, a scream rising in her throat that never found voice as consciousness expanded beyond human limitation. She was the ship. Every system, every circuit, every molecule of the vessel became an extension of herself. She felt the hull breaches as phantom wounds, the failing life support as labored breathing, the gravitational pull of the neutron star as an inexorable current dragging at her body. Most overwhelming were the sensations that had no human equivalent. There were quantum fluctuations of the stardust core resonated through dimensions her mind had never conceived. Connection points opening between spaces that conventional physics considered separate. Through the ship's sensors, now extensions of her own senses, Maya perceived the approaching Vrox in ways impossible to describe in human terms. They were not just physical beings but complex energy patterns, their crystalline biology creating distinctive signatures that rippled through space-time. Fascinating. Commander Azarath's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere as he stepped onto the bridge flanked by Vrox soldiers who secured Dax, Alara, and Webb. You've actually attempted neural integration. I didn't think human physiology could withstand the initial shock. Maya couldn't respond vocally, but she could observe. Azarath approached her suspended form in the pod, studying the crude interface, with what appeared to be genuine scientific curiosity. Our younglings require 3 years of preparation before attempting their first integration, he continued. Yet you, with no training, no evolutionary adaptation, impressive, if ultimately doomed. Through ship sensors' now eyes, Maya watched Dax exchange a meaningful glance with Alara. The navigator's modified vision allowed him to perceive something about Maya's integration that the others couldn't see. Commander, Dax called out suddenly. The gravitational shear will tear this vessel apart in approximately 7 minutes. Your ships remain outside the critical radius. If you want the core intact, I suggest immediate evacuation. Azarath turned, multifaceted eyes analyzing Dax. A transparent attempt at deception, but there is truth in your concern. He activated his communication device. Prepare for emergency extraction of key components and personnel. In that moment of distraction, Maya's ship discovered something extraordinary. Pathways between points in space that existed outside normal dimensions, accessible only through the quantum fluctuations of the core when interfaced with a consciousness, capable of intuitive leaps beyond mathematical precision. Where Vrox integration followed perfect crystalline patterns, human consciousness introduced creative chaos, seeing connections no algorithm would compute. Commander Azarath supervised, as his troops began disconnecting the Stardust Core's primary components. The neutron star's pull increased by the second, the ship's structural integrity failing under gravitational forces that would soon tear it apart. We have approximately 4 minutes, Commander, a Vrox technician reported. Salvage of the core's primary elements is proceeding, but full extraction is impossible in the available time frame. Azarath studied Maya's suspended form, her consciousness seemingly lost in the interface. Bring the human as well. Their scientists have achieved something unexpected. High Command will want to examine both the technology and its user. In the space between thoughts and the quantum realm where consciousness met technology, Maya discovered something no Vrox had ever found. Their crystalline minds, evolved for perfect mathematical precision, followed established pathways through space-time. Maya's human mind, chaotic and intuitive, perceived connections that no equation would predict, shortcuts through dimensional space accessible only through intuitive leaps. Not a straight line, she realized. A pattern of connections. Like neural pathways, the ship shuddered violently as another structural support failed. 3 minutes to critical failure, the Vrox technician announced, accelerating the salvage operation. Dax, still held at gunpoint, watched Maya with his modified vision. Unlike the others, he could see the energy patterns flowing between her and the ship. Not the ordered crystalline formations of Vrock's technology, but something organic, adaptive, evolving by the second. She's doing something, he whispered to Ilara. Something they don't understand. In the space between moments, Maya made her choice. Instead of fighting the neutron star's gravitational pull, she surrendered to it, but not to destruction. She felt the quantum pathways opening, connections between points in space that existed outside conventional physics. The Vrocks would never attempt such a maneuver. Their perfect calculations would deem it impossible, the energies uncontrollable, by any logical system. But human minds weren't built on perfect logic. They were built on intuition, on creative connections, on impossible leaps of faith. Maya's ship moved. Commander Azarath felt it first. A reality-bending shift as energy patterns. No Vrock's algorithm had ever conceived cascaded through the vessel. His crystalline senses, attuned to the perfect mathematical order of the universe, recoiled from the chaotic, beautiful impossibility unfolding around him. "Stop her," he commanded. But it was already too late. The Stardust Runner didn't just accelerate, it transcended, slipping between the quantum spaces that separated points in the universe. Not a straight line of conventional travel, but a neural network pattern of connections that only a consciousness capable of both precision and intuitive chaos could navigate. On his flagship, now distant and falling behind, Azarath's second-in-command watched in disbelief as their sensors registered velocities that their most advanced theories had calculated to be physically impossible. The human vessel didn't just outrun their ships, it disappeared from conventional detection entirely, leaving only a wake of exotic particles that their scientists couldn't properly classify. Maya regained consciousness 6 days later in Alliance space, her neural pathways permanently altered by the integration. Medical scans revealed new structures in her brain, architectures that allowed her to process information at speeds no unmodified human could match. "You've been unconscious for nearly a week," Admiral Vega explained at her bedside. "Your ship appeared in Alliance space through means our scientists are still trying to understand. The data you've brought back..." The Admiral shook her head in wonder. "It changes everything, Captain." "My sister," Maya managed, her voice weak from disuse. "Safe. We extracted her and the other refugees during the confusion of your arrival." The Admiral leaned closer. "What you did was impossible, Captain Chen. You found a way to outrun ships that have never been outpaced." Maya closed her eyes, remembering the feeling of moving through quantum connections that only a human mind could perceive. "Not impossible," she whispered. "Just impossible for them."